Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom. Tom, we are at Ohio State right now. Just got wrapped up talking to the quarterbacks, talking to Ryan Day. We are outside as there is some machinery going on. So this is football season is here. Tom, how are you doing?
I am not even kidding. There's a gator coming around the corner right over there right now. It is right before we hit record. A plane flew directly overhead. It was like, man, it didn't feel like football season until right now with the horrendous, terrible background noise and inconsistent lighting. It's like, man, it is good to be back.
It is good to be back and back in our natural element of noise and chaos and gators. Great timing. So yes, we did wrap up with quarterbacks just a little bit ago. Talked to Kyle McCord, Jack Miller, CJ Stroud. There was even time for Jagger LaRoe and JP Andrade. Talked to Ryan Day for about 7 minutes and talked to Corey Dennis, quarterbacks coach, for about 15. Being that camp is not open yet, Tom, there was not a lot learned, almost nothing learned. And the one topic that everybody wanted to talk about, Quinn Ewers, was not actually a topic that necessarily could be talked about, especially as the Ohio State Sports Information Department walked around to crack down on such discussions. Did any of that happen while you were talking to Kyle McCord?
Not Kyle McCord. Did happen with Corey Dennis, and the reason for that is Quinn Ewers has not signed a national letter of intent, because you don't have to do that if you're not reserving your spot. He's just enrolling. He's not officially enrolled yet. So under NCAA rules, you have to either have signed that NLI, which is why coaches can talk about guys on like early signing day. Once they've send that letter of intent and sent it in, you can talk about them. Quinn Ewers hasn't done that. He's not officially enrolled at Ohio State yet. So those are the two different ways you could do it. Neither of them are the case. So it was a lot of like, so hypothetically, guys, how would things be different if, we all know there's a 3-quarterback battle. Hypothetically, if there was a 4th guy here, let's just say, how would that make things different? And it was like, well, you didn't get a lot of answers to those types of questions, but we tried.
Yeah, and when Corey Dennis was asked, hey, you've got a guy coming in, and that question got shut down, and then the response was like, well, just answer it generally. Is practice important? Mm-hmm. Like that sort of thing. It's like, yes, practice is important for the quarterbacks. The more practice, Tom, I don't know if you knew this, the more practice you can get as a quarterback, the better you will be. I was talking to Jack Miller, and I asked Jack Miller and Kyle McCord basically how much of the offense do you guys feel like you have down, and we can get to that later. But then I asked him how long it takes, and Jack Miller's like, it takes a long time. And I asked him, do you think like a freshman could come in and learn it in 2 weeks? And he said, I didn't want to say no, but it just depends on a freshman. Tom, we've talked about Quinn Ewers a lot, and the fact that we certainly don't expect him to start, and that the expectations need to be tempered because camp starts tomorrow. He's not going to be here, and he's nowhere to be found almost.
Right, and you go through the 3 other guys. 2 of them have been here since January of 2020, and yes, they had a wonky 2020 year, but they had a 2020 year. Kyle McCord got here in January, went through winter workouts, went through spring ball. Talked today about how much he's grown physically and mentally. Quinn Ewers doesn't have any of that. Quinn Ewers is potentially missing the start of fall ball. We don't know exactly how far into fall practice he's going to show up, but that's the hill just keeps getting steeper. Mm-hmm. The climb just keeps getting steeper the more you miss.
Yeah, and what's going on right now with the other 3, and I made the mistake of asking Corey Dennis, because he was asked like, how are the reps going to be split up, and he's like, we've already got all of that scripted. And I made the mistake of asking him like, hey, do you have to now re-script it for 4? Mm-hmm. As like JP Andrade and Jagger LaRoe were walking by, and he's like, well, there's more than 4 here now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Yes, that's walk-ons are people too. That is my fault. I apologize for that. But they are, sounds like they've already figured that in basically, and we'll see what that is. But he's not going to get no reps. But it's CJ Stroud, Jack Miller, Kyle McCord, and then everybody else.
Yeah, and this also is not coming as a complete surprise to Ohio State. I mean, if members of the Buckeye Scoop staff were hearing about this 6 weeks ago, then I would certainly hope that the Ohio State coaching staff has sources at least as good as the Buckeye Scoop staff. You would think that's probably true. You know, this is not coming as a complete surprise. You may have had a plan A and a plan B depending on how many scholarship quarterbacks you had on the campus at any given time. This is, you know, yes, they're going to have to divide up reps a little bit more. I'm sure they're going to want to give Quinn Ewers a decent number of reps. You would assume, you know, I think that most people think they have a decent idea who's probably most likely to be the starter for Ohio State this fall. You know, I don't know if Ohio State is really planning on doing 33.3%, 33.3%, and 33.3% for the three scholarship quarterbacks who were already here, and then now it's going to be 25, 25, 25. I kind of doubt that. I kind of think that, you know, when we saw guys repping in the spring, we generally saw them repping in the same order, which tells me that, you know, and that was sort of the order we anticipated them repping in. So I think, you know, there's probably a plan. The plan will get modified a little bit to include the new guy, but I'm not anticipating 4 guys getting equal reps each with, you know, equal amounts with the first team and the second team and third team.
And from what we saw, I believe they were pretty even in terms of the number of reps back in the spring. So is it a 30, 30, 38, 1, 1? That sort of thing, you know. If you guys aren't good with math out there, that's 30% for each of the 3 returning quarterbacks, 8% for the freshmen, and 1% each for the walk-ons.
Yeah, I would assume you're probably you're getting a little more than 8 and 1 and 1, but you know, Corey Dennis was, you know, asked kind of specifically about that, and he didn't really want to go into specifics at all. He was trying to get out saying as few specifics as possible, which is, you know, I mean, that's how this stuff goes sometimes, and you have to, you know, there are all sorts of political concerns there. If you say you're going to do one thing and then you don't follow through, or you say something that leads people to believe that it's not being done in an equitable manner, like there's all sorts of concerns there. So I get it, but also, you know, if Corey Dennis can't tell you or won't tell you these specific numbers, what hope does a person like I have?
It's true. And the very fact that we talked to the quarterbacks before practice even starts tells you that we weren't going to get much. So in terms of what we did get today, CJ Stroud was asked, like somebody said, hey, you know, you're pretty much people on the outside view you as the starter or the guy to beat. Is that how you view yourself? And you would expect maybe, yeah, you know, I view myself as the guy. That's what I want to be. So you got to project yourself, you know, as to what you want to be. You got to dress for the job you want, not the one you have. And he said, no, I view myself as the guy in last place. And so that's just the mentality he's had. It goes back to, I would assume, his high school days. Tom, remember, he came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
As senior year, or prior to his senior year, little known, goes and wins the Elite 11. Ohio State guys are out there at the opening. They're talking to him, and you know, blossom from there. Eventually becomes a 5-star guy, and now looks like the presumed starter. But you know, he is certainly working to be the starter. But I like the mentality he has of, no, it's not my job.
Well, and he hasn't won it yet, and I think that's probably the net. You know, the net of that is he knows he has not won this job yet. He has not been given this job. That may happen in a week. That may happen in 2 weeks. Ryan Day said, you know, a week or two into fall camp, that's about when he wants to kind of have that starter sort of figured out, whether it's named publicly or not. But CJ Stroud's not there. He has not done enough to win that job, or at least be told he has won that job. So, and even when you do win that job, you come out and throw 3 picks in the first half against Minnesota. Like, you have not won the job forever. This is not, and you know, you have not been crowned the King of England, and it's your job until you're dead. Like, you're the starting quarterback. There are other talented quarterbacks on the roster, and you know, I mean, there are who is always the most popular person on campus? Always the backup quarterback. So you have won the job. You have earned the right to start in that first game, and then you have to continue to earn that right to keep it. And you know, that's the mindset you want. It's not my job. It's my job to win. Yeah. Which that's probably a pretty good approach.
Now I'm imagining the quarterback, the starter gets the job for 4 years. The backup is the vice quarterback, and should something happen to the starter, then of course the vice quarterback could take the reps there, and then in 4 years he's well positioned to then eventually become the 4-year starting quarterback after that. Jack Miller, talked to him quite a bit. it's interesting you hear all of this stuff from the outside. Jack Miller is the guy who's going to transfer because he's not CJ Stroud and he's not Kyle McCord. And then you talk to him and he's an Ohio State quarterback and he's very much competing for the job and very much not some mopey guy that you would shouldn't you be mopey?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't you be like sad that you're not going to win a job? And meanwhile,
does he not know yet?
Yeah, gosh, you wish somebody would tell him.
Yeah,
and no, he's very much vying for that starting spot. Talking about the thing is like they make each other better, but while you're competing against, like I asked him, like isn't it kind of like weird or tough that you are making your competition better, and yet you still have to then compete with that, and that's all a part of the process of winning the job, becoming better, becoming a starter, and he doesn't seem to be shying away from it.
No, and when you talk to people, even the people who tell you that he's not necessarily the front runner, will tell you he is a very good quarterback. This is a very, very good Power 5 quarterback. If he doesn't end up being the best of the 3 or the 4 this year, then that's because there are some other very, very good quarterbacks on this roster, because Ryan Day turns out pretty good at evaluating and developing quarterbacks. Who knew? But yeah, he's someone who, I think I've said before, any of those 3 guys feel like they could come in and win the Big Ten. You could probably win the Big Ten with any of the 3 different quarterbacks starting this year. That's partly a testament to the talent around them on the field, and that's partly a testament to the fact that you're not bringing in a 2-star schlub from Division II and being able to say that, like, these are legitimately good quarterbacks, and this is a spot where whoever wins the job, there is not just one possible answer on this team. If whoever wins the job is either ineffective or hurt or unable to play for whatever reason, there are other possible answers on this team that can get them to, what would I think be considered a pretty successful season.
I asked Kyle McCord, what do you feel like you have a full grasp of the offense? And he said, no, not yet. And then he said, I don't know that I ever will. Like that's not how he views. Like you don't finish with the offense. Like they're still putting stuff in. Like Ryan Day was upset last year because they couldn't do as much with the offense as they wanted to, because of the pandemic and the practice and all of that. Like there was still stuff they wanted to add to Justin Fields' game. So it's not like you graduate. Like what's next?
Yes, now I've finished it. Yes, yeah. You don't hit the 100% completion screen at the end of the video game. It's just like, okay, well, oh, good. Now we can do more. Now we can teach you new reads. Now we can teach you new checks. We can teach you. I mean, there's always more stuff to throw in there, because football coaches. How often do we hear football coaches talk about? Well, let's just go get up there on the chalkboard and draw stuff up and tinker and like that's what they want to do. They want to. You figure out all the base stuff. You figure out the game plan stuff for the weeks, and then you can mess around. Once then you can tweak stuff. Then you can tinker. You can mess around. You can throw different variations on things to make make your offense maybe harder to you're getting away from tendencies. You're all that stuff. So yeah, that's probably a pretty good mindset to have coming in, because. We always hear, and this is something people were asked about. This was talked about in the wink wink. Hypothetically, if there was another quarterback coming in, hypothetically, Ryan Day talks about how it takes a year, to really understand the offense, really get the offense, really know what you're doing. Why is that? And Corey Dennis didn't really answer that question. It was just kind of basically, well, it's complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. Playing quarterback is a difficult position. It's like, yeah. But why? And I think there's probably there's a lot of reads that go into it. There's a lot of it's not just everybody go deep. Like that's not, they don't run 4 verts a lot, and that there's a lot of stuff that goes into playing quarterback at Ohio State, and there's on-field stuff and there's off-field stuff as well, and they talked a lot about that as well, in the context of like what is it going to take to win the job, and what was interesting to me was I didn't generally hear guys talk about avoiding mistakes. It was much more about the leadership role, being prepared, knowing the answers, being studied up, much more than, in the spring, Ryan Day talked about, hey, some guys, sometimes a guy moves ahead and then he has a bad week and he moves, has a bad practice and he kind of falls back to the pack. And, you got to take care of the ball. And we didn't really hear that today. And, I don't know, maybe that's something that's just sort of assumed that, like, well, of course you have to take care of the ball and also you have to do these other leadership things. But that was kind of interesting to me because I think I heard two or three different people ask that question and I'd never heard take care of the ball.
No, I agree. And somebody asked, asked Day, like, do you feel good about the quarterback situation? He's like, I feel very good about it, which is, I think everybody should then. If the head coach is already talking like that, granted, practice 1 starts tomorrow, and then
haven't seen one incompletion all fall camp.
His feelings may fluctuate, but getting back to Kyle McCord and not feeling complete with the offense, and you mentioned, like, how many times did Urban Meyer say, like, 50-year-old coaches, all they do is draw plays on napkins. They get together and they just draw plays on napkins at like an Applebee's or a bar or whatever, and that's like it never ends. I mean, and you can't ever feel like we have completed offense.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean that's the nature of football, right? That offense makes this seismic leap, and how will defense respond? Okay, well now defense has responded. Well, how will offense respond to the response? And it is a perpetual cat and mouse game, and. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've heard Kevin Wilson talk about that over the previous years. I know I've heard Greg Schiano talk about that over the previous years. Urban Meyer talks about. I mean, it's
my idea, Tom. Quadruple option.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like it a lot. I call it the run pass option.
Okay, I call it the RPO.
RPO. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We should trademark that.
We should
before we put the podcast up. One thing that was interesting to me, one of our favorite storylines in the 2018 season, quarterback Dwayne Haskins is roommates with wide receiver Austin Mack.
All right.
So this year, Kyle McCord is talking about his roommate, and he's in a room or an apartment or whatever it is he has a total of 4 people. Tony, name those people.
I'm going to assume one is Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Harrison Jr., correct. Freshman wide receiver who went to St. Joseph's Prep School in near Philly with Kyle McCord. Described Marvin Harrison as his best friend.
That was my free space.
So that is the free space, yes.
Is Emeka Egbuka in there?
Emeka Egbuka is in there, yes.
Okay, all right, so that's 2. I'm just going to throw one out there, and this could be way off because I'm not going to go with the freshman. Am I already wrong by not going with the freshman?
I don't know. I need to hear you say a name.
Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Incorrect.
Oh, dang.
Jaden Ballard. Jaden Ballard.
So wow.
Yes. So he's Jack. So he's So he is. Kyle McCord is roommates with the 3 true freshman wide receivers.
Pretty selfish on his part.
It's. I mean, he has it. He has it all locked down. He's like, well, I mean, they are different positions. It's like, well, yeah, but I mean, they do work pretty closely together. That's a pretty integral part of the quarterback position is having wide receivers you can throw to.
Was that their decision or was that put together?
That was not that question was not asked. That is a good question, and that was not asked. But he was. When it was Dwayne Haskins and Austin Mack, we had a year of somewhat tongue-in-cheek, it's real easy to go out and hey, you guys want to go throw, like, and you start building that chemistry with those guys.
But you saw it in 2017 at Michigan.
Right, exactly. Yep. And now Kyle McCord. I mean, this is obviously not what's going to decide the Kyle McCord Quinn Ewers quarterback battle of the future, but it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, if you have good chemistry with your 3 classmate wide receivers, I mean, it can't hurt.
You know who they're going to put like Quinn Ewers with? Like, no offense, but like, walk-on fullback, a kicker, probably another kicker. That's not fair.
Maybe they're out of dorm rooms and he's going to have to stay in like a storage closet or something.
But he's from Texas. They're tough. They can handle that.
Yeah. Caleb Burton will be here in just a matter of a few months. So he'll have a roommate from just like Kyle McCord has a roommate from Philly. He'll have Quinn Ewers can have a roommate from Texas.
Warring quarterback receiver apartments. Prank wars could ensue, all kinds of hijinks. That'll be fun. That's interesting to have the three freshman wide receivers. They talk about building camaraderie and chemistry during the summer and the off season. Like, there's also camaraderie being built on the couch, playing Madden and whatever and stuff like that. So that's interesting. That'll pay dividends somehow. Anything else, Tom, before we call it a day?
I think that was kind of the the big stuff. I mean, there was a lot of Kyle McCord was asked about Bryce Young potentially making $1 million in NIL. Basically he said he personally has an advisor or an attorney or agent or whatever you want to call it for NIL stuff. He has not started that stuff. They've kind of had some conversations about it, but he hasn't really dived into that much yet. But he said the starting quarterback at Ohio State is probably going to make have a lot of opportunities presented to him, which I mean that is probably true, and that's one of the reasons Quinn Ewers is coming to Columbus a year early.
Yeah, CJ Stroud said he has an agent. Jack Miller said he's got some things in the works. So it's one of those things do you wait till you win the job, that way your rate goes way up, or do you do it now so that you can lock in a rate in case you lose the job? I mean, it's a lot to think about for these young quarterbacks.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I mean, there was a lot of kind of dancing around the Quinn Ewers question. And
let me ask you, Tom, who answered fewer questions or who provided less answers to their questions? Kevin Warren, Corey Dennis?
No, Corey Dennis, I mean, actually accidentally addressed a couple things, so I think the answer definitely has to be Corey Dennis. And he also had a much shorter window of time, so I think for sure.
Having a little fun there, because there's the reason, again, they were first is because they didn't want to share a lot of information.
Yes, because they can honestly answer, well, we haven't really seen anything yet. We haven't
plausible
seen practice.
deniability.
Exactly, and I mean, we will get a chance to watch a little bit of practice on Wednesday. I'm guessing we will not be here for the entirety of practice and all of the 7-on-7 drills and all that kind of stuff. But we'll get to watch at least a little bit of practice tomorrow, and be able to start giving you some insight on what we're seeing. And sometimes even if it's just the order guys are repping in, a lot of times that's sort of instructive. And hey, this offensive lineman is repping at this position and not that position. This is we are starting to put the pieces together for as the season kind of gets a little closer.
Yeah, and we've done this long enough to where it may not be concrete, but it's as close as we can get, and it tends to lead that way. So
and you start Wednesday is a data point. It is here's where things are at the start of spring practice, fall practice. I know what season it is. Here's where things are.
Actually, still summer.
I don't know what season it is. Here's where things are at the start of practice in August, and then when we see them again in a week, what has changed? Because that's where it's really instructive, because it's the first day of camp. You sort of have some idea, but a lot of stuff is going to change. Knowing then what changes a week from now, that really helps kind of put things in a bigger picture.
And then, as Ryan Day said in Indianapolis, it's the second and third week of practice where things really happen, and that'll be the most interesting time to watch. And we'll be here watching from afar or from away.
I think we're from a medium this year. We're not up on we're inside the building this year. This is nice. This is significant progress from this time last year. So
certainly
we'll take it.
So that'll do it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. There's going to be a bunch of stuff coming. Check out the Morning Scoop every day with Tom Orr. He'll have who you have on tomorrow?
I think I'm going to have Tony Gerdeman on, because
I hear he's good.
I've heard mixed reviews. But we want to kind of do like 5 things, 5 storylines we're excited to watch, 5 things we're excited to learn inside or see inside Ohio State practice on Wednesday. Just kind of like, here's what we're going to be looking for in advance of it, and then the sports information staff can watch it and then know what they need to hide from us. Just put up a big curtain when these things are about to happen.
Yes, that sounds about right. I won't say any more because I don't want them to actually do that. But anyway, that'll do it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you later.